Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Can we have a loud salawat for the attendance of Imam Ali alayhi salam?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Can we have a loud salawat for the attendance of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Can we have a loud salawat for the attendance of the Imam of our time alayhi salam?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Praise is due to Allah, whose worth cannot be described. Praise is due to Allah, whose worth cannot be described by speakers, whose bounties cannot be counted by calculators, and whose claim to be obedient cannot be satisfied by those who attempt to do so. The Quran speaks about itself in the following ayahs. This Quran is not such as can be produced by other than Allah. On the contrary, it is a confirmation of revelations that were sent before it, and a full explanation of the book, wherein there is not doubt from the Lord of the worlds. And we sent down the book to you for the express purpose that you should make clear of them those things which they differ, and those that it should be a guide and mercy to those who believe. With these words of the Quran, I would like to invite Ali Dahir to recite the Quran.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad wa ajil faraj. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فتور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب عليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين واعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع ونأكل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير وأسير قولكم واجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور صدق الله العلي العظيم
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وأينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
زندان میں سکینہ یہ بکا کرتی تھی رو کر زندان میں سکینہ یہ بکا کرتی تھی رو کر دم گھٹتا ہے اماں میرا اب یہاں سے چلو گھر زندان میں سکینہ یہ بکا کرتی تھی رو کر کیا اندھیرا ہے سجا ہی نہیں دیتا کچھ بھی سبات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you. So now I would like to invite Ahmed to recite a Noha.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه.
اللهم صل على
محمد وآل محمد.
هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا Can you hear it loud and clear the call of Sayyid Ashuda هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر
ينصرنا.
On that day of Ashura in that land of Karbala
هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا.
We will be your messengers, we will propagate your name, we will spread the light of justice through the power of your flame.
هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا.
هل
من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا.
هل من
ناصر
ناصر
ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا.
هل من ناصر
ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا.
Can you hear it loud and clear the call of Sayyid Ashuda هل من
ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا
On that day of Ashura, in that land of Karbala,
هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا
we will be your messengers, we will propagate your name, we will spread the light of justice through the power of your flame.
هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا
هل من
ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا
صلوا
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you for that, Ahmed. So next I would like to invite Sibhan with a loud salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Hai Zainab, hai Sham. Hai Zainab, hai Sham. Hai Zainab, hai Sham. Hai Zainab, hai Sham. Juju bazar قریب آیا. Hai Zainab, Zainab ko ghazi yaad aaya. Juju bazar قریب آیا. Hai Zainab, Zainab ko ghazi yaad aaya. ہاتھوں سے یہ پھر بالوں سے چہرے کو چھپا لے شہزادی. یہ شام شہر کی گلیاں ہیں, دل تامل اے آقا زادی. فضا نے جب یہ بتلایا, ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. جو بازار قریب آیا, ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. ماحول شرابی جب دیکھا, بابا کی وصیت یاد آئے. کوئی تو مجھے چادر لا دے, ہونٹوں پہ یہی فریاد آئے. جب کوئی نہیں چادر لایا, ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. جو بازار قریب آیا, ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. پھر شام کے لوگوں نے بدلا اجداد کا یوں زینب سے لیا. چادر چینی پتھر مارے اور گرم کبھی پانی پھینکا. درہ جو سکینہ نے کھایا, ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. جو بازار قریب آیا, ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. خاموش رہی اولاد نبی, کربل سے یہاں تک ظلم سہا. کھولی یہ منادی کرنے لگا, یہ کنبہ ہے کہ باقی کا, مظلوم جو باقی کہلایا. ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. جو بازار قریب آیا, ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. فرحان قیامت کا غم ہے, مظہر نے لکھا ہے کیا نوحہ. شبیر بنا عباس بنا, یہ پہلا سفر تھا زینب کا. جو بازار قریب آیا, ہے زینب, زینب کو غازی یاد آیا. زینب کو غازی یاد آیا.
اللهم صل
محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Sibhan, for that wonderful recitation. Now I would like to invite Mushtaba and Hadi to read a speech with a loud salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Shaitanir Rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Today, I and my brother are going to read some extracts out of the book of the Nahj al-Balagha. I will start with Allah's creation. He made the creation without any example and without the advice of a counsel or the assistance of a helper. He created the earth and suspended it, retained it without support, made it stand without legs, and raised it without pillars.
He brought out the creation by his power and made the winds flow with his compassion. Then he decorated the heavens with the star and the light of the meteors, and set the shining sun and the bright moon in an orbit that rolls round. Praise be to Allah when the night falls and darkens, and praise be to Allah when the stars shine and set.
Look at the sun and the moon, the plants and the trees, the water and the stones, at the alteration of day and night, the gush of the oceans, the great number of mountains and the height of their peaks, at the difference of languages and the variety of tongues. Look at the ant with its small body and delicate form. See how it crawls on the earth and leaps at its livelihood. It carries the grain to its hole and stores it in its storage. It collects during summer for the winter and during strength for the period of its weakness.
Usnuriya Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Glorified is Allah, who has given feet to the ant and the gnat, and created those bigger than them, the fishes and the elephants.
If you wish, I will tell you about the locust. Allah gave it 2 red eyes with pupils like 2 moons, made it small ears, opened for it a suitable mouth, and gave it a keen sense. He gave it 2 front teeth to cut with, and 2 sickles, like feet to grip with.
The birds are subject to his commands. He knows the number of their feathers and the count of their breaths. He has made their feet stand in water and land. He knows all the species. There is the crow, and the eagle, the pigeon, and the ostrich. The most amazing among them is the peacock in its creation, which Allah has created in the finest harmony and arranged its hues. The best composition with wings well tacked together and a long trailed tail.
An example of his delicate product, a marvel of his creation, and a sample of his profound wisdom is what we see in the bat, which shrinks from the daylight. Although daylight moves everything else to action and is active in the night, although the night stops the activity of every other living being.
God is aware of the cries of the beasts in the forests, the sins of the people in private, of the movements of the fishes beneath the oceans, and the uproar of the waters by strong winds. I would like to end this beautiful statement by Imam Ali alayhi salam about staying on the right path. One who acts without knowledge is like one who walks off the road. It is deviating from the clear path takes it farther away from destination. One who acts with knowledge is like one who walks in a clear path. Therefore, one should see whether he is moving towards his goal or going backwards.
I pray that Allah grants us the courage and strength to stay on the right path. Bless Safinat and Najat and makes us do actions which please the Imam of our time. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
MashaAllah.
Thank you, Mr. Hadi, for that excellent speech. Now I would like to invite Mohsin with the Nahj Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
जब शिमर लाई शोहदा के सर काट के लाया शोहदा के सरों को پسر سعد نے دیکھا سر اصغر معصوم کا موجود نہیں تھا. یہ کہتے ہوئے شمر کو پاس اپنے بلایا. حاکم مجھے بخشے گا نہیں تجھ کو خبر ہے. جا ڈھونڈ سر اصغر معصوم کدھر ہے. تاریخ میں اس ظلم کا ملتا ہے حوالہ. ظالم نے لحد کھود کے اصغر کو نکالا. سر کاٹ چکا ہولی تو نیزے کو سنبھالا. نیزے پہ گیا بانو کی آغوش کا پالا. موت بھی نوحہ کرتی تھی رو کر بگڑا ہے بانو تیرا مقدر. نوک سنا پر ننھا سا ایک سر لے کے چلا ہے ہائی ستمگر. نوک سنا پر ننھا سا ایک سر لے کے چلا ہے ہائی ستمگر. جو صاحب اولاد ہے سوچے تو ذرا سا کس درجے ستم کو کجلی ماں پہ ہوا تھا. غش کھائی ہوئی ماں نے جو ہی آنکھوں کو کھولا. نیزے پہ سر اصغر معصوم کو دیکھا. تھام کلیجا بولی وہ مستر ثانی زہرا دیکھو یہ منظر. نوک سنا پر ننھا سا ایک سر لے کے چلا ہے ہائی ستمگر. نوک سنا پر ننھا سا ایک سر لے کے چلا ہے ہائی ستمگر. زینب نے سوئے لشکر اعدا جو نظر کی. سر پیٹ کے یہ کہنے لگی درد کی ماری. اے کشتہ شمشیر جفا اے میرے بھائی. کیا بعد شہادت بھی ستم ہوتا ہے کوئی. تو ہی بتائے صبر کے پیکر کیسے سنبھالے دل کو یہ مادر. نوک سنا پر ننھا سا ایک سر لے کے چلا ہے ہائی ستمگر. نوک سنا پر ننھا سا ایک سر لے کے چلا ہے ہائی ستمگر. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Moses. Now I would like to invite Brother Hussein to remember.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
مرثیہ پڑھے ابتدا
ارتضا بیٹا ارتضا پہلے پڑھے گا. ارتضا.
صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل وسلم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
مومنوں بے قصو بے یاد ہے مظلوم حسین. سخت آفت میں گرفتار ہے مظلوم حسین. دل شکستہ جگر افگار ہے مظلوم حسین. کیا سراسیماؤں لاچار ہے مظلوم حسین. تیر کاری ہے لگے زخموں پہ شمشیروں کے. نیزوں کے زخموں میں پیوست ہیں پھل تیروں کے. کیا رحیمی ہے کہ غصہ نہیں آتا ہے ذرا. کیا کریمی ہے کہ سر کرتے ہیں امت پہ فدا. کیا تحمل ہے کہ ہر زخم پہ ہے شکر خدا کیا شجاعت ہے کہ لاکھوں میں گرے ہیں تنہا تیر بھی نیزے بھی سینے پہ لیے جاتے ہیں پر دعا نانا کی امت کو دیے جاتے ہیں یوں تو یوں ایک سے ایک ظلم ہوا شے پہ سوا تین صدموں میں مگر ضبط کا یارانہ رہا ایک جوان اس کا بھتیجا تھا حسن کا بیٹا شب کو وہ دولہا بنا صبح ہو شہیدوں میں ملا اس کے مرنے کی خبر بیووں نے جب پائی تھی ماں دلہن کو لیے خیمے سے نکل آئی تھی دوسرا غم ہے یہ ایک بھائی تھا اس کا صفدر جب سے وہ مر گیا سیدھی نہیں ہوتی یہ کمر اب بھی روتا ہے اسے ہائے برادر کہہ کر بے کفن لاش وہ اس کی ہے پڑی دریا پر اب بھی بولاش عجب درد سے تھرائی تھی لڑکی ایک ہائے چچا کہ جو چلائی تھی تیسرا حادثہ میں کیا کہوں پھٹتا ہے جگر اس کا ایک بیٹا تھا 18 برس کا اکبر برچیوں سے ابھی مارا گیا وہ رش کے کمر حیف ہے دفن ہوئی رات کو جس کی مادر غم اکبر میں اسے کیا کہوں کیوں کر دیکھا چشم افلاک نے زینب کو کھلے سر دیکھا غم اکبر میں اسے کیا کہوں کیوں کہے دیکھا چشم افلاک نے زینب کو کھلے سر دیکھا مومنوں بے قصو
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
Now I would like to invite Brother Hussein Raza to recite recite today's Majlis?
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل.
The concept of a Messiah, that is a figure that will come at the end of days and establish a utopia upon this planet, is one which is universal throughout most religions of old. When we look at the Zoroastrian faith, which is one of the earliest monotheistic religions in history, their Messiah comes in the form of Saoshyant, who is again to come forth and bring peace and justice upon earth. If we look at the Hindu faith, we find that there is a final reincarnation of Vishnu, who will come with a flaming sword and again establish a utopia on earth. As per the Buddhist theology, there is the coming of Maitreya, who is the final reincarnation of the Buddha, and to whom there is the largest stone statue in the world in China. When we look at our Christian brothers, they have their idea of the Messiah in Jesus Christ. And when we look at our Jewish brothers as well, they too believe in the second coming they believe in the coming of a Messiah, though they, unlike the Christians, believe that he has not yet come. And when we look at the Islamic faith, we find that our Messiah takes the form of Imam al-Mahdi ajjallahu farajahu sharif.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And the teaching, the belief of the coming of Imam al-Mahdi is one that is in the Quran and one that is universal. It is a consensual belief amongst all Muslims. We find that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
He says, as is recorded in Sahih Muslim, that I leave behind for you two weighty things, the Quran and my Ahlul Bayt. In the Quran, we still have the books, which alhamdulillah we can keep and we read, hopefully on a daily basis. And in his family, we too have inherited. That is our final Imam. And this belief, this teaching is throughout the Holy Quran. When you look at the Shia school of thought, every belief, no matter how controversial it may be, there are foundations within the Holy Quran. And the same applies to the belief of Imam al-Mahdi. The verse that I recited at the beginning is from the 21st surah of the Holy Quran, verse number 105, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that indeed we have written in the Psalms and the Torah that the righteous among you will inherit the earth. It's not saying that they will inherit Jannah, though of course there are many ayat which refer to it. But here he is saying that the righteous and pious among us will be the ones to inherit the earth in a worldly sense. Similarly, in Surah A'raf, verse number 120, Nabi Musa alayhi salam he tells his people to exercise patience. And what is the motivation? He says, because it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the earth, He gives success to those who follow Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeatedly in the Quran, he refers to this idea of justice on this earth being in the hands of those who are righteous. Final verse before we move on, there are others. Surah An-Nur, verse number 55. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised to those who believe and do good that most certainly He will make them rulers on the earth, and as He made rulers those before them, and will most certainly establish for them their religion which He has chosen for them. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes specific reference to this planet, to this earth, and that He establishes the righteous as the leader on earth, and that His religion will be victorious. Now, obviously, when we look at the world today and we see the political climate that Muslims find themselves in, that prophecy has not yet come to pass. And the righteous people have not inherited the earth. In order to gain power in today's world, you have to be a professional liar. You can't enter into politics or journalism or any sort of occupation which gives you influence on the changes of the time without being a liar or corrupt. There are a few exceptions, but by and large, that is the way the system has been set up. Now, we'll quickly look at the Sunni belief, the belief of our brothers in the school of Ahl Sunnah regarding the 12th Imam, regarding this idea of a Mahdi and a Messiah, before we move on to the main topic of tonight's discussion. So when we look at our brothers in the school of Ahl Sunnah, you find three opinions, really, two of which are quite fringe opinions, and one of which is the majority opinion, and that which is in the center. The first extreme opinion is to deny that the Imam existed at all. And not only do they deny the existence of the son of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, they deny the very concept of a Mahdi. Now, not only does this contradict with the verses of the Quran that I have mentioned, but it also contradicts very established ahadith. In Sahih Muslim, Book 1, Hadith 293, there is a reference from the Holy Prophet to a leader who will lead the Muslims to victory. Very much in line with these verses of the Quran, which talks about the establishment of Islam and those who are pious. And yet, these ahadith and these Quranic ayat, they are ignored. The central opinion, which most of our brothers in the school of Ahl Sunnah adopt, is one whereby they accept that there is a Mahdi, that there will be a Messiah who will come. And this is the belief of most of the major Sunni scholars of old, all of the classic scholars who established this fact, as per the undeniable evidence of the Holy Quran and the major ahadith. And they talk about it explicitly. Al-Nasai, Al-Hakim, in his Mustadrak, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, all of these great figures, they talk about him openly. And I think the best way to summarize this would be to quote Ibn Khaldun, one of the most famous historians of Islamic history, who writes Al-Muqaddamah, which translates as the introduction. And he says, I quote, "It has been well known and generally accepted by every Muslim in every epoch that at the end of time, a man from the family of the Prophet will make his appearance and will strengthen Islam and make justice triumph. The Muslims will follow him. He will gain domination over the Muslim realm, and he will be called Al-Mahdi."
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Sometimes, the way that religions, they tend to develop over time, or any sort of ideology or belief system, they can sometimes become reactionary. So that now that the Shia Muslims have established themselves as such a potent force in the world today, both in numbers and political climate, people sometimes try and dissociate themselves from what could sometimes be seen as Shia teachings. But the majority of Sunnis, even today, and as per the old classic scholars, they all believe in his existence. The other fringe opinion is one which is not held by most of our brothers in the school of Ahl Sunnah. And that is not only to accept that there is a 12th Imam, that is a Messiah, but also to accept the identity of him as the same way that we accept. Sulaiman al-Qanduzi, in his Ya Nabi al-Mawadda, he has a tradition whereby a Jew approaches the Holy Prophet and he talks about inheritance, he talks about successorship and khilafah. And he insists until the Prophet, he tells him, fine, I'll tell you who my successors are. And he names each and every one of the 12 Imams, finishing with Imam al-Mahdi, ajalallahu farajahu sharif.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
But we should not fall prey to intellectual dishonesty, that we take a fringe element and pretend that it is all the case. It is a tradition which is not found generally in most of their books. So what about the Shia belief? what is the Shia Ithna Ash'ari belief regarding the 12 Imams? Well, the first to state is that we believe he is the 12th of 12 Imams that were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this belief of 12 leaders after the Holy Prophet, again, is one which is established in the authentic sources. Bukhari in his Sahih, book 89, hadith 329, has a very famous tradition. And it's quite famous because it often perplexes many ulama. And in this tradition, the Holy Prophet refers to the fact that after him there will be 12 Khalifs who will lead, and he puts particular emphasis on their righteousness and their justice. Not in Bukhari, but in other versions of this hadith in Sunni books, they often say that even the day of judgment cannot come to pass until these 12 have come. And it is not just within Muslim literature that we find talk of our 12 Imams. If we go back further, we can look at the Bible. We look at Genesis 17:20. It says, I quote, I have heard your request about Ishmael. So God is talking to Ibrahim alayhi salam. So I will bless him with many children and many descendants. And he will be the father of 12 princes, and I will make a great nation of his descendants. So even here, even in the Bible, we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're going all the way back to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. But Allah, He is establishing the importance of these 12 Imams by stating them in the Bible. But the Shia belief, it varies. The Shia belief, it varies from our brothers in the school of Ahl Sunnah on two key issues. The first is the extent of his wilayah, how many powers he has, how much power he has from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They paint him to be much more of an ordinary human being, whereas we paint him as one of the infallibles, and he has a higher status, number one. And number two is in his identity. So we would argue that he was the son of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam. But they come back and they would answer, well, Imam al-Askari, he lived a long time ago. It's been over 1,200 years. If your Imam was born then, surely he would have expired. Surely he would have passed away by this point. And one of the beautiful things about the 12th Imam is that we can find an answer to all of the questions, the common questions which are put against him, by looking back to the prophets. And we can find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already, for the sake of their mission, He has allowed very specific miracles to take place. And indeed the same has happened for the 12th Imam. So in response to the question, how can the Imam still be alive today? If he was born over 1,000 years ago, we look no further. Again, let's go back to the Holy Quran, the foundation of our belief, and we look at Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the 29th surah of the Holy Quran, verse number 14, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فَلَبِثَ فِيهِمْ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ إِلَّا خَمْسِينَ. And we sent Nabi Nuh to his civilization, and he stayed among them for 950 years. And the traditions tell us this 950 was just before the ark. That a lot of traditions say he lived for over 2,500 years. However long he lived, at least per the Quran, it's at least 950. So if we are open to believing that Nabi Nuh could live for so long, as per the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a particular purpose, then it makes no sense that we start to mock and we deny the existence of the 12th Imam simply because he is old. And in addition to that, we should know that even if we don't have a specific example of the likeness of a miracle in the past, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has full power. إِنَّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٍ. So long as we don't cross into the realm of logical impossibilities, as long as we stay within the physical impossibilities, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has absolute power. Right? When Nabi Ibrahim is thrown into the fire, we know of this story, right? Nabi Ibrahim, after he rebels against the idolatry and the shirk of the people of his time, they try and make an example of him by throwing him into a grand fire. But when he is thrown into the fire, what happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, Surah 21, verse number 69, قُلْ يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. O fire, become coolness for Ibrahim alayhi salam. So most surely it is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power that if He so desires, He can allow for a certain miracle to happen, that the mission can be completed. But where did the Imam come from? What is the story of his origin? Well, in order to answer this question, we will go back to Allama Majlisi's Baharul Anwar, book number 59, the book of occultation. And there are a few traditions in there which give us a little bit of a backstory about the identity of our Imam. Imam al-Askari, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
he calls one of his companions, Bishr, and he says, take this money, this exact amount of money, 200 dirhams, and take this letter, and I want you to go over to a certain market. If you travel to this place, you'll find that there are slaves who are being brought from a distant land. I want you to go and search for someone who refuses to be bought. Right? There'll be a lady who is a prisoner there, who will refuse any purchase by anybody. And I want you to insist that the master hears you out, and then I want you to offer exactly the amount of money that I am giving you, and I want you to give this letter over to her, to this lady. So Bishr, he doesn't fully understand exactly what's going on, what is the story behind this, but of course he obeys his master. So Bishr goes, he turns up at this market, and he finds that indeed there is a market here, and there is a lady, a very pious lady, who is refusing to be sold, no matter what, no matter how high a price any of these people in the slave market will offer. So Bishr, he thinks, well, she's so insistent, what's the point of me trying? But the Imam told me, so I'll do it. He approaches the salesperson and he says, look, I want to purchase this lady. And he says, there's no point trying because she's completely refusing. He says, no, I insist. Please let me pay exactly this amount and take this letter. She takes the letter, she opens it up, she begins to read it. After she reads it, she cries. And she says that I completely accept and I want to come with you. So Bishr, he's confused. He doesn't understand what's going on. At first she was so insistent that she's not going anywhere, and now she comes happily. So he asks, what is your story? And she says that I am Malika bint Yashur, who is the son of the Caesar of Rome. So she is from royalty in Rome. And I was arranged to be married to somebody who I didn't really know. And it was supposed to be a grand affair. Again, it's a royal wedding. So there's a large set of festivities which were set up. And a number of priests were invited, people from far and wide were all invited to come and witness this grand wedding. But when the wedding was about to take place, there was a huge pulpit and a big cross that was set up there, because the Byzantines at this point, they were a Christian empire. Large cross and lots of bishops and priests. But as soon as the marriage was about to start, and the fiancé, when the man was about to climb up towards the top of the pulpit, there was a great earthquake. And all of the decorations and everything, it began to fall. The pulpit cracked and the crosses, they fell from the top onto the ground and they shattered. Now the priests, they saw very deeply into this. They saw there was a spiritual meaning behind this. It is no ordinary circumstance that the cross of Christ would be crushed in such a fashion. And they become wary, they become scared. And they say that, this man who she was about to marry, he must have done something very wrong. Please excuse us from engaging in this wedding. And he himself had fallen, and he'd fallen unconscious. So the wedding was called off. It was quite an embarrassment to the Caesar, all of these festivities for no reason. But he sets it up again, and he chooses another man. And again, they set up this grand festival. They're ready for this royal wedding to take place. And again, the same thing happens. Great earthquake, and the man, he falls down unconscious. Now the priest really knows something is going on. We don't know what, but something bad is happening. Now, the king, he decided, okay, well, if things aren't working out, we're going to have to take a bit of a break. We're going to try and figure something else is going to happen. Now, the lady who was going to get married, she has a dream, and it is one of the most beautiful dreams that we find within the Islamic literature, because she sees that Jesus, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, he is walking forward. And with him, he has all of his great companions. And they are coming towards a certain spot where there is a grand pulpit, much greater than the one that the Byzantines had set up at that other wedding. And it is a pulpit made of light that stretches up to the sky. From one side, there is Nabi Isa alayhi salam, the champion of Christianity. And from the other comes Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And of course, course, he brings his greatest disciples, the 11 Imams. 11 Imams are with him. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he approaches Nabi Isa and he says that I have come, O Isa, to you on this day because I have brought the proposal from my son. And he points towards Imam al-Askari alayhi salam. Nabi Isa, he is elated. He smiles, a broad smile. He turns to Shamu'un, who was his successor. And he says that a great honor has come to you. That now your line can be amalgamated with the line of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And they both, of course, they accepted without any hesitation. And the wedding ceremonies were carried out and the two were married. This lady and Imam al-Askari alayhi salam. And she woke up. She knew the dream was no ordinary dream, but she could not communicate this across to anybody because she feared that some harm would come to her as a result. But she began to feel ill. She began to feel a bit unwell. And she didn't eat as much as she was before. And she became sick. The king called his physicians, come to have a look at her, see what's going on, but nothing could help. Until eventually, after she fell asleep one night, she saw another dream. And in this dream, this time it was two of the greatest ladies who have ever walked on this planet, they come forward. From one side comes Bibi Maryam, the mother of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, and from the other comes Lady Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And they come again with a grand procession. There are over 1,000 servants. And this lady, she approaches Bibi Fatima alayhi salam and Bibi Maryam. And she complains. She says, look, your prophet wedded me to this wonderful man. But he has not come to visit me yet. I have not yet seen him. And Bibi Fatima informs her that it is because at the moment you don't have the full iman in your heart. And she tells her to convert to the religion of Islam and accept the truth that the Holy Prophet had brought and the truth of Islam. After she does this, she says her kalima, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and then Bibi Fatima alayhi salam says, now I will send my son towards you. So Bishr, who's listening to this story, he's amazed by what has just transpired. He asks, well, how is it that you became a captive then? If you're telling me that you are the daughter of a king, of the Byzantine king, then how is it that you've ended up on this slave ship? What happened? And she says, well, I had another dream. And in it, finally, Imam al-Askari, he visited me. My husband visited me. And he informed me that I should go and on a certain date, go to a certain ship whereby slaves were being taken in this direction towards this empire. And I should disguise myself as one of the slaves and slip on board. But after I reached my destination, I was told that I should not accept anything except this exact amount of money. And then when I opened up this letter that you gave me, the reason why I cried is because I saw that it was the handwriting of my husband, Imam al-Askari, salawatullahi wa sallam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And up to that point, she had hidden her identity. But now she revealed herself as Bibi Majlis. And she was to be the mother of our master, Imam al-Mahdi, ajalallahu farajahu.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
But after she joined Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, it was a very difficult time, it was a very turbulent time in terms of the leadership. Because the Abbasid Khulafa who were there in power, they knew that the 12th Imam was not. They knew that he was going to be born because this hadith of these 12 Khalifs, they had come across it. And they knew that the Messiah was going to come. And if the purpose of the Messiah is to destroy falsehood and establish justice, well then they're going to run head on. They're in trouble. So they do everything that they can in order to try and prevent the Imam from being born. And thus, the Imam's birth was very secret. On the 15th of Sha'ban, Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, he invites his aunt, Lady Hakima, to come over to his house. And he says that on this day, there will be born the Messiah that will bring peace and justice upon this planet. And Lady Hakima, she's confused. And she turns around and she says, oh, Imam al-Askari, but who is the mother? and he points towards Bibi Narjis. Lady Hakima, she looks towards Bibi Narjis, and she doesn't look like she's carrying a child. She doesn't look like she's born a child for 9 months. But Imam al-Askari alayhi salam says that don't worry. It is going to happen, and it's going to happen tonight, and I have called you that you may bear witness. But Lady Hakima, she had some doubts in her mind, but she continued to pray her salah, and she did her salatul layl, and through the night, nothing was going on, nothing was happening. And again, she began to get a little bit doubtful. And when doubts entered into her mind, Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, who was in the other room, he says, don't worry, Lady Hakima, it's going to happen soon. Soon our Messiah will enter into this world. And she says that soon after she finished her Salatul Layl, out came a great commotion. Something had happened. There was a great sound. There was a blinding light. She came towards Bibi Narjis, but she was taken aback by what had taken place, and she lost consciousness. When she opened her eyes, she saw that Bibi Narjis was there, and she had in her arms Imam al-Mahdi ajalallahu farajahu.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Imam al-Askari alayhi salam asks for his son. He puts his tongue inside the mouth of the tongue of his son, and he touches the eyes of the Imam and the joints in various parts of his body, and then he tells him to speak. He's just been born, and yet Imam al-Askari tells him to speak. He says, this newborn, I bear witness that there is no deity other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi is his messenger. And then he blesses each and every one of the 12 Imams, one after the other, by their names. Question: how can a child speak? When he is born, how can he say what he has just said? Again, remember our principle, we go back to the Holy Quran and we go back to the prophets of old. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given us the answer. When Nabi Isa alayhi salam was born and he was taken back to the city by Bibi Maryam, what happened? We read in Surah 19 verse number 30 that as a newborn he said, I am indeed a servant of Allah, and Allah has given me scripture, and he has also made me a prophet. So Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, he takes his new son and he gives it to his grandmother, and he's taken away into Medina in order to be brought up somewhere else. Because there were many spies around. Even within Imam's own household, there were female spies that had been sent, that if anybody looked like they were about to have a child, they would be kidnapped and that child would be killed, so that there could be no problem. And it's quite interesting. There's a lot of similarities, aren't there, with the story of the birth of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. That just like in the time of Nabi Musa, there was a prophecy that there would be someone who would come forward that would end the injustice of the time. So in order to try and get around the prophecy, they sent spies and they killed any newborn that would come forth. And as a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it such that the pregnancy was hidden. Just like with the mother of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, it was the same with Bibi Narjis. And it was important, it was a miracle specific for that time in order for his mission to be fulfilled. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he tells us in the Holy Quran, وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. That they plan, and Allah plans. And most surely Allah is the best of plans. And I personally, I love this verse. It is one of my favorite verses of the Holy Quran. Because you look around at the world and you see how desperate the situation is. How far and wide such evil and horror has spread. And you see the people in power, and sometimes you can't help but wonder, they're so powerful. What is going to happen to them? And then you remember that whoever they are, however powerful they think, and however much they plan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is indeed the best of planners. Now, 5 years pass after his birth, and the Imam, he is raised in secrecy. Not very many people know about him. Again, it was very important to keep his birth secret. The Imam has chosen specific witnesses so that they know, so that there is no doubt over the fact that he has indeed been born, of which Lady Hakima was prime amongst them. But Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, eventually he is also martyred. He is poisoned on the 8th of Rabiul Awwal in the 260th year after Hijrah. Now, the Abbasids at the time, they think, Alhamdulillah, we're sorted. We managed to avoid the Messiah from entering into this world, as if they could outfox Allah. And Ja'far al-Kadhab, who is Ja'far the liar, who is the brother of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, he sees there's an opportunity for me here, right? There's supposed to be a 12th Imam, there is no 12th Imam. So he goes to the Khalif, he says, look, he says, if you give me a bit of money, make it worth my while, I will claim to be the 12th Imam. And then I can lead the Shi'as in whatever direction you want me to. So they thought, okay, you know what? Sounds like a good deal. They gave him 20,000 dirhams. And it is time for the funeral of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam. He's about to be buried. Ja'far al-Kadhab, he stands at the front. He's about to read the Salatul Mayyit. But only an infallible reads the Salatul Mayyit of another infallible. Only an Imam can read over an Imam. And just before he starts, this young boy, he enters. He moves Ja'far away. And he says, I am more worthy to pray the Salatul Mayyit over my father than you are. Now Ja'far, he is dazed. He doesn't know what on earth just happened. Your father? You're his son, he had a child. He doesn't know what's going on. The Salatul Mayyit is praying. Immediately Ja'far, he runs over to the Khalifs and he tells them. And they sent their missionaries after Imam in order to try and finish him off. Okay, they have failed from making him, from him being brought into this world, but maybe they can cut him off and finish his mission while he is still a young boy. But again, you think they'd learned their lesson by now, but they're not going to give up. They continue to try. And so, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He enters into his minor occultation. Now, there's a point here I want to mention, and I think it's the most important practical point that we should take from tonight's discussion. And that is that no matter how much money Ja'far al-Kadhab was given, no matter how much he tried, no matter what he did, he was unable to establish the respect of the Shia. He completely and utterly failed in his mission. And that is why he's known to posterity as al-Kadhab, as the liar. And grammatically, there's a lot of, not just the Kadhab, the Kadhab. Why? Because Islam specifically, but even more generally, goodness is not communicated by what we say. It is not about the ideals that we hold in our mind alone. Rather, it is about the way that we act. How is it that the Holy Prophet would spread Islam? How is it that Ahlul Bayt taught Islam? They taught through example. How many stories do we have of an imam going around the city, knocking on people's doors, trying to convert them by giving them leaflets? Now, there may be a place for this. I'm not trying to mock this approach. But how many people have you spoken to who are Muslims and they say, yeah, you know what, I was on the bus one day, I was on the way to work and someone sat next to me, they said, say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and I became a Muslim. It doesn't happen like that. If you look at revert stories, what happens? They see something, they witness something, they feel something. You can't change the world with your words, but you can change the world with your actions. Whilst Ja'far, he stood up with whatever words he could conjure, with all the backing of the government of his time, he was unable to make any imprint on his mission. And yet, the 12th Imam, who is only 5 years old at this time, he is immortalized and continues to live and is celebrated by 300 million Shi'as around the world. Why is that? Because he lived the action. They didn't just talk, they didn't just give theory, they also lived. And each and every one of us, especially for the younger generation, we are all flag bearers for Islam. We all represent our 12th Imam. We are his representatives on this earth. When we go out of our house, when we go to school, when we sit our exams, or when we go to university, when we get a job, whatever it is that we do in life, if we call ourselves Shia, we are linking ourselves with the 12th Imam. Sometimes we ask, what is our mission to the 12th Imam? He is in occultation. What is my duty to him? And the answer is that our duty to the 12th Imam is to be the best human beings we could possibly be. Because as we bear the flag of Islam, if we are the best people, so we are the kindest to our parents, we're the most obedient of children, we work hard at school, we get the top grades, so that other people look at us and wonder, wow, these Muslims, you know what? They're pretty smart. That puts love, or if it doesn't put love, at least it gets rid of hate for the religion of Islam in other people's hearts. Whilst that is our mission, sometimes we go out and we do the opposite. So we go to school and we're rowdy. We don't listen to the teacher. We talk a lot. We think we're the clowns of the classroom. Or we're disruptive, or we don't concentrate. What does it do? It makes people think, you know what? It's no wonder those Muslims in Iraq or in Syria or whatever are doing what they're doing, because they've seen the practical example. So if there's one message we can take away from tonight's majlis, it's that we are the flag bearers of our Imam. And it is our duty to make sure that we do him proud, not that we are a disgrace to him. But question, Imam, he goes into occultation, right? We left our story when he goes into the minor occultation. Now, what happens next? So during this occultation, he has 4 representatives. There are 4 individuals who he communicates with, and he sends signed letters with for all of the answers from the community. And this goes on for about 70 years, for these representatives to be that connection to the Imam. But why was there a need for a minor occultation? If the Imam was going to go into occultation, if he was to go into this spiritual realm, why is it he didn't just go into the major one? And the answer is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was preparing us as Muslims one by one. He was step by step, he was preparing us. At first, the Prophet was amongst the people, and he was their leader, and he was respected among them, unparalleled. Right? We have full access to Allah's teachings. Then the next step is we have Imam Ali alayhi salam. Okay, he's in the position of authority, he's Khalif, but in 4 years of Khilafah, he fights 3 civil wars. Everyone's trying to fight against him. He's facing a very antagonistic environment. Similar to the Prophet, but much more open. So that's the next step. There's one more barrier that's been put between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message. Then we go until the time of Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And he establishes an institution of wukala, that is representatives. That if you are in a distant place, you can't get access to me, you can speak to one of my representatives and they will give you an answer on my behalf. So there's another step, right? We're bit by bit, we're being weaned off this direct access to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And next step, the Imams are put in prison, and they are kept in prison constantly. And now the only way that you can get messages from the Imams is through secret letters. And it's very difficult, and it is a dangerous business. And the final step before the major occultation is the minor occultation. That now we have access to an Imam who's no longer physically among us, but we can still ask him questions. So bit by bit, Allah is getting us ready. He's getting us prepared for the major occultation. But then there's another question that comes forward. Why the major occultation, right? Often it is asked, well, if the Imam is a Messiah, if he is supposed to come and establish peace and justice on this planet, then what's he running from? Right? If there's so much injustice in the world, shouldn't he be coming back now? Or how about then? How about against the Abbasids? Well, there's a few answers to this. The first is obviously for a safety perspective. That Imam al-Mahdi at that time, when he was 5 years old, the enemy institutions were so strong, he hadn't established his position so much, he had to take a temporary retreat. Just like Nabi Isa alayhi salam, just like Nabi Musa alayhi salam, to consolidate his position. Number 1. Number 2 is that his absence, it is a test for the believers. That after we have been taken step by step away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test us. And he's done this before, right? Nabi Musa alayhi salam, when he's amongst his people, he saved them from the Pharaoh. They have seen the greatest of all miracles of God before them with their own eyes. They've been saved from the time that they never thought they could escape from. And Nabi Musa, he goes to Mount Sinai. He says, I have to go to Mount Sinai. Allah told him 30 days. 30. But when he turns up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extends it. From 30, he makes it 40. Now these are 10 days when he's supposed to be back. Let's see what the people do. He's rescued them from the Pharaoh, but they can't spend 10 days without him. They melt their jewelry and they make a golden cow, which they start to worship. It's interesting how quickly we turn our backs on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the Imam's absence, we as mu'mineen are being tested. And Allah tells us in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, that the true mu'mineen are those who believe in the unseen. That we have evidence for what we believe in, but we also extrapolate based on evidence that we have available. Number 3 is that we don't appreciate what we have until we've lost it. Well, we have so many blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, just look at what we have now. We have our health, alhamdulillah, we have our families, we have our friends, and if nothing else, at least we have our iman. But we don't recognize how much these are worth until we lose them. The Imams were amongst the people for how long? The Prophet was there amongst the Muslims for how long? And yet what did they do to them? Every single one of the Imams, they were martyred in one way or the other. They were rejected, they were fought against. Because the Muslims, they didn't appreciate what a treasure they had. If the Imam had come and Imam al-Mahdi had established himself, what difference would it have been? What difference could he have made until first the Muslim Ummah would wake up and realize that, subhanAllah, we have made a great mistake? And number 5, which is perhaps the most important of them all, the reason for the major occultation is because our Imam is waiting for the 313. When the Imam comes, he won't just wave a magic wand, say the magic words, abracadabra, and then everybody suddenly becomes good people. What on earth is the point? Why not just create the world as a utopia in the first place? We have free will, we have agency. That is the purpose of our test. And if we don't put that to good use, and Imam comes and he just controls us, we become robots. Then we're like angels again. There's no purpose to this test. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in the Holy Quran, Surah 13, verse number 11, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the condition of the people until they first change themselves. So when we have become good mu'mineen, not just in our words, but in our actions, and we become champions for Ahlul Bayt, they would be proud to look at us and say, yes, this person is one of my Shi'as. Then when he has enough, he will come back and he will establish peace and justice on this world. And this call for us, this call for us to become good people, it was not just by the 12th Imam. All of the Imams who came before, and the Prophet before them, were calling us to this good path. Again, not just of words and theory, but of action. But one of the most famous calls of all is one that has echoed throughout history. And that was the call of our master Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. When he says, Hal min nasirin yansur, is there anyone amongst you to help us? There was no one left. There was no one there to answer the call other than the killers. He wasn't talking to the people there. He was talking to each and every one of us. Is there anyone who can help us? And it is our responsibility whether we want to answer this call. But on this occasion, we give our condolences to Imam al-Mahdi. We give our condolences to the 12th Imam, for this is a very difficult time for him. For these were the days when he lost his ancestors. We give our condolences to the 12th Imam over the martyrdom of the companions of Imam Hussein. We give our condolences over the martyrdom of his family, of Al-Qasim, of Al-Akbar, of Al-Abbas, and even over the infant Al-Asghar. And we give our condolences to the 12th Imam over the martyrdom of his father Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The tragedies that took place on that day were so great that no person could bear it. But perhaps we can understand that Imam al-Sajjad, even though he was ill, maybe he could soldier through. Or we look at the great lady Zainab and we think that with her character and her spirit she can pierce through any difficulties. But these are grown adults. These are people who have seen so much. They have such iman and such experience that maybe they can deal with it. But tonight we will look at one who faced all of these tragedies, and yet she was so young. She had no experience upon which she could lean. For we look now towards Bibi Ruqayyah. For she was only 3 or 4 years old on the day of Ashura, when she had to say farewell to her father. And she observes that one by one her family members are going out into the battlefield, but they're not coming back. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he gets on Zuljanah and he starts to ride out. Bibi Ruqayyah, she holds on to the legs of the horse and says, look, nobody's coming back from the battlefield. I don't want you to go. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he cries, he comes down, he consoles her, and he sends her back. And she was very right in trying to stop him, for he did not return. And the tragedy, there are many similarities between the tragedy of Bibi Ruqayyah and Bibi Fatima alayha salam. Because Bibi Fatima too, she was betrayed by the Muslims of her time. For Bibi Fatima too, she was killed when she was quite young. But Bibi Fatima, although the loss of your father was so difficult, at least you had Imam Ali alayhi salam there to console you. At least you had a place that Imam Ali had established for you so that you could cry. Let us go now to Karbala and see what Bibi Ruqayyah has to face. Because after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the bloodthirsty enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they come towards the tents of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And Bibi Ruqayya, she is there at this age, 3 or 4 years old. These are children who were scared of innocent things like darkness or of fire or insects or little things like that. And yet all of a sudden, all of these enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they come forward. They shout the cry, burn the tents of the oppressors. They take the fire and they start to put the chadars of the mu'mineen, of the mu'minat on fire. They put the tents on fire and they come forward with their horses. Imagine for a moment this young girl is there. She does not know what is going on. All she sees are these savages running around attacking people. One comes up to her and he grabs the earrings which she is wearing and rips them out. And she runs screaming into the darkness of the night. But her calamities are only just beginning. Because after that day, after Sham al-Ghariba, they were taken as prisoners. And from prisoners, they were taken on this long journey over to Sham. And even when they reached Sham, it was not the end, because she was taken into the court of Yazid. And all of the prisoners were chained up together. But Bibi Ruqayya, she is so small, she is so young, that she has to stand on her tiptoes so that she's not strangled by the chains that are around her neck. And every time she cries or she complains, she is responded to by the whip of Shimr ibn al-Jawshan. And after the sermons of Bibi Zainab and Imam al-Sajjad in that court, Yazid still does not let them free from their misery, for they are banished to the dungeons. And these dungeons were designed specifically so that they would torture their inhabitants, for there was no roof, that in the day they would burn and in the night they would freeze. Bibi Ruqayya, she has been through so much and she is missing her father. She constantly asks, where is my father? And she is told that he has gone on a long journey. Nobody can find it in their hearts to tell Bibi Ruqayya that she'll never see her father again. And in that prison, she looks out of the bars and she sees that there are birds that fly away. And she asks Imam al-Sajjad, "O Sajjad, where are these birds going?" And Imam would reply by saying that they are on their way home. They're going back to where they belong. And she would cry and say, "Oh brother Sajjad, when are we going to be free? When are we eventually going to be able to go home?" Oh Sajjad, I cannot imagine what pain must have been in your heart when you knew that the answer to that question is never. For she was destined to die there in that prison, never to return home. She has a dream in the night where she sees her father. Her father comes up to her. She's overjoyed. And he consoles her, tells her not to cry and says, "Don't worry, soon you will be returning to me." She wakes up and she's crying. She's in a frenzy now. She wants to see her father. When they hear about the dream, they know that she is going to pass away soon. But the tyrant Yazid, when he is awoken by the cries of the dungeon, and he knows that Bibi Ruqayya is asking for her father, he responds by sending the severed, mutilated head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein into this prison. And her heart has already taken too much. And when they take off the covering from the head, her heart breaks. She throws herself onto the head of her father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and she cries out, "Who is it that has killed you, O my father? Who is it that has turned me into an orphan when I am at such a young age?" She continues to cry over the body until eventually she becomes quiet. At first, the people there are relieved. Maybe now she's finally had some rest. Maybe now she's finally got some sleep. But alas, Imam al-Sajjad, he says from behind, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un." Separate her from the head, for indeed her soul has left this world. And still she was not to receive peace. Even after she had been martyred, she was not allowed out of the prison. Imam al-Sajjad in the prison, using the chains which bound him, has to dig a small grave. They say that the smallest coffins are the heaviest. And in that grave, in that prison where all of them are living at that point, he has to bury Bibi Ruqayya. But before she is buried, her body is taken for ghusl. But one of the ladies who was going to help with the ghusl of her body, she moves away. And she says, "I will not do ghusl on her body." They ask her, "Why is it that you're refusing to do the ghusl?" She needs ghusl so that she can enter into her grave and finally be reunited with her father. And the response comes that, "Look, I am afraid. She has some sort of disease of her skin. I don't want to catch it."
Imam al-Sajjad says she has no disease. What are you talking about, Bibi Zainab? She goes up and she sees, and she says that this is no disease that you see, for she had been whipped so much on her back, her flesh had been broken so much that it had fused with the clothes that she was wearing, that it looks like she is suffering from a disease, when in fact these are just the wounds from the whip of Shimar ibn al-Jawshi. They bury Bibi Ruqayya in that prison. And she is left there, and there she stays even today, separated from her father. Bibi Zainab, she goes back to Karbala on the Arba'een, and she says, Ya Aba Abdullah, please accept my apologies, accept my condolences, because you gave me an amana, you gave me a trust to look after, and I was unable to do so. You gave me your little daughter Ruqayya, and I have left her in the dungeons of Sham. But what can we say of her mother? For Bibi Rabab, she has lost Al-Asghar, and now she has lost Bibi Ruqayya as well. She has nothing left in this world. She walks around like a ghost, like a broken woman, and she never again enters into the shade, saying that she does not want any more of this comfort in this life, until she too passes away from the misery of Karbala. La'natullahi ala qawm al-zalimin. Let's recite the Surah Al-Fatiha.
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, let's start with Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
Ali, Ali, Akbar, Ali, Ali, image of the Prophet, Ali, Ali, image of the Prophet,
Ali, Ali,
Ali, Ali, Akbar,
Ali, 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 Akbar, Ali, Ali,
image of the Prophet,
Ali, Ali,
image of the Prophet,
Ali, Ali.
oh, Ali, Akbar, like true grandfather, so generous, so kind, faithful, patient and truthful, and pious. Oh, son of Hussein, you will show the best manners. Manners of the Prophet, Ali, Ali. Manners of the Prophet,
Ali, Ali,
vision of the Prophet,
Ali, Ali,
vision of the Prophet,
Ali, Ali,
Ali, Ali, Akbar,
Ali, 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 Akbar, Ali, Ali,
image of the Prophet,
Ali, Ali,
image of the Prophet.
Ali, Ali.
As we stood to recite the Azan for the final time, cries were heard as they saw the Nabi for the final time. Oh son, let me say goodbye for the final time. Allahu Akbar, Ali, Ali, Allahu Akbar,
Ali, Ali,
Ali, Ali Akbar, Ali, 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 Ali Akbar,
Ali, Ali,
image of the Prophet,
Ali, Ali, image of the Prophet, Ali, Ali.
Hussain al-Gharib, al-Gharib al-Hussain, Hussain al-Shaheed, al-Shaheed al-Hussain, Hussain al-Gharib, al-Gharib al-Hussain, Hussain al-Shaheed, al-Shaheed al-Hussain. You're the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad Mustafa, the son of Imam Ali and Lady Fatima, the purest of souls, with utmost purity. Yet thousands of Muslims showed no loyalty. They knew you entered the holy cloak by the will of Allah. Yet travelers, they left you on the plains of Karbala.
Hussain al-Gharib,
Al-Gharib al-Hussain, Hussain al-Shaheed, al-Shaheed al-Hussain, Hussain al-Gharib, al-Gharib al-Hussain, Hussain al-Shaheed, al-Shaheed al-Hussain.
You're the teacher of sacrifice and of charity. You even fed the horses of your enemy. From darkness into light, you set forth free. But surely he entered heaven with your mother's handkerchief. But when you pleaded for Asghar, who was just the sea, and Tara's what they said to your infant baby.
Hussain al-Gharib, al-Gharib al-Hussain, Hussain al-Shaheed, al-Shaheed al-Hussain, Hussain al-Gharib, al-Gharib al-Hussain, Hussain al-Shaheed, al-Shaheed al-Hussain.
You're the lantern of guidance for all the world to see, the ark of salvation for all humanity. Those who fought in your light called out your name. In your arms you carried them back till only you remained. Sakina, your daughter, went from crying in your arms to seeing you hide on the deer in the court of Ram.
Hussain
Al-Gharib, al-Gharib al-Hussain, Hussain al-Shaheed, al-Shaheed al-Hussain, Hussain al-Gharib, al-Gharib al-Hussain, Hussain al-Shaheed, al-Shaheed al-Hussain.
इस्लाम के मोहसिन का मातम है बपा लोगो,
इस्लाम के मोहसिन का मातम है बपा लोगो,
आ गया गुर्बत में, मारा गया गुर्बत में, बेजुर्म खता
लोगो, इस्लाम के मोहसिन का मातम है बपा लोगो, इस्लाम के मोहसिन का मातम है बपा लोगो।
ये किसका कबीला है, इस गोद के पाले हैं, देखो तो जरा इनके अंदाज निराले हैं। तुम तीर चलाते हो, तुम तीर
चलाते हो,
देते हैं दुआ
लोगो, इस्लाम के मोहसिन का मातम है बपा लोगो, इस्लाम के मोहसिन का मातम है बपा लोगो।
मारा गया गुर्बत में, मारा गया गुर्बत में, बेजुर्म खता
लोगो, इस्लाम के मोहसिन का मातम है बपा लोगो, इस्लाम के मोहसिन का मातम है बपा लोगो।
तस्हीर के पर्दे से हम कैसे निकल आए, सजाद अगर कह दो इस आग में जल जाए, जलते हुए खैमों से جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے آتی ہے صدا لوگوں اسلام کے محسن کا ماتم ہے بپا لوگوں اسلام کے محسن کا ماتم ہے بپا لوگوں مارا گیا غربت میں مارا گیا غربت میں بے جرم و خطا لوگوں اسلام کے محسن کا ماتم ہے بپا لوگوں اسلام کے محسن کا ماتم ہے بپا لوگوں قرآن کے حافظ تھے جو تیر چلاتے تھے قرآن کے وارث تھے جو زخم اٹھاتے تھے قرآن کا نوحہ ہے قرآن کا نوحہ ہے یہ کربلا لوگوں اسلام کے محسن کا ماتم ہے بپا لوگوں یا حسین 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 محمد علی محمد صلوات
اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد نعرہ حیدری
السلام عليك يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد المرسلين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس السلام عليك يا أنيس النفوس السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرضا السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا قامع الكفر والطغيان السلام عليك يا دافع الظلم والعدوان عجل الله تعالى فرجاك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجاك ورحمة الله وبركاته